All right, we are joined here with Max Hindle. Max is a coach. Max is a hypnotist, and Max's whole coaching hypnotist strategy is really about removing your fears, helping you rewire your mind. Max, thank you for joining us.
It's a blessing to be here with you, Ryan. I know we've been lining this one up, and I'm looking forward to do it. And to anyone listening, if my voice sounds a little bit different to usual, I've just for some reason lost my voice.
Man, you got a sexy voice either way, so it's totally
now
fine.
it sounds it. Now it sounds it, and I'm like, I would actually keep it if I could, but it will end up going back, and I'll be like, it would work for hypnosis, wouldn't it?
That's funny you say that. I've had that happen a couple times where I wasn't feeling well, and then I'm like, my voice is deeper. I think I like the sound of it more. So
There's not much I can do. Once it goes, it goes.
Yeah, right. No, it's all good. So definitely stoked to have you here, Max. And just the fact that what you do is, to me, it's fascinating coaching, but in the realm of like hypnotism, you don't hear that very often in the coaching, but I know it's a very real thing. It's a very powerful thing. Take us back a little bit into your story and how you really fell into what you're doing now.
Yeah. So when I was as a kid, I grew up very just a sort of average kid. I was always like just a bit of a nightmare at school, never really got on with school and stuff like that. I left school and I started to really, or just towards the end of school, I started smoking weed when I was like 13, on and off, not really heavily. But then when I started to hit like 15, 16, I started drinking a lot, smoking more weed, and then started getting into like harder drugs and got to a point of taking cocaine 5, 6, sometimes 7 times a week. And literally it was just consistent. And a lot of that stemmed from what was going on at home. My dad was very aggressive, never physically abused me at all. But towards the last time I saw him was when he actually beat up my mum and attacked my mum. And that was one of the best things that ever happened in my life. And I'll explain why in a moment. But everything that happened stemmed from negative things. Where I am today, everything has happened because of all the crap that went on in my life. All that stuff that really hurt me, that made me depressed, that made me anxious, all that stuff actually served me to my highest level. And I always want anyone to understand, we never see it in the moment how great it is until we've got something better than we originally had. Yes. And now I'm doing what I'm doing now. Now I'm living the life that I'm living today. Isn't exactly where I want to be. Don't get me wrong. I'm still not even 1% of where I want to be, but I'm so blessed and grateful for all the bad things that have happened to turn my life around. And it stemmed from my dad being so aggressive and abusive and him beating up my mum and me looking at it and going, I'm turning into him. I used to work with my dad, so I'd never really held down a job for more than 3 months. I would quit or I'd get fired. I just didn't like working. I never worked well for someone. For myself, I work very well. I can work on 10 hours easily. And I really enjoy it now, but I really didn't work well for other people. And after working for my dad, him being so aggressive, screaming and shouting at me for doing things wrong, my sort of self-esteem was just going lower and lower. And I switched that around by taking drugs because that made me confident. That allowed me to speak to people, that allowed me to talk to girls, that allowed me to take my mind off of what would usually cause me, what I would say is, I never got diagnosed as depressed, but from what I know about depression, I would say I was 100% depressed. I got to the point of thinking, what's the point in even living? Like, who would even care if I died right now? Who would care? And that wake up moment when my dad attacked my mum, it made me look at him and go, he's a builder, I'm a builder. And nothing wrong with building. Do you know what I mean? I still quite enjoy making things. He's drinking a lot, I'm drinking a lot. He takes drugs, I'm taking drugs. He's very angry, I'm getting very angry. And I started to put 2 and 2 together at about, I think, 18. And I started to 18, 19, I started looking at myself going, I'm really following his footsteps. And the one person that I never want to be in this lifetime is my dad. And that is because of how he approaches life. Things would always go bad for him. And I would always wonder, why do things always go so wrong for him? And now it's evidently clear because of who he has been, what he's done, and how he treats the world, how he treats himself, how he's been treated and stuff like that, which then causes me to think, how can I change that? So I slowly started coming off of drugs. And from that point, it didn't happen overnight, and it never did. It took me a good few years. It took me a good year or two to really get off drugs and go completely sober. And then I even went sober from alcohol for 2 years, but now I can drink and I don't overdo it. And I've broken that pattern of wanting to drink, then wanting cocaine, which was always the pattern. So I can now have a drink and not even think about it. That's the worst thing. That's the last thing that will come into my mind now. So yeah, from a very young age, it just started from there. And then eventually I just started to make those twists. But when I started coming off drugs, I got severe anxiety, depression, and just really bad self-confidence. Everything just went from cocaine, thinking I'm the big man, the best, and I feel great, to coming off of it, I just felt the lowest of the low. Like, and it's so true, the quote, it's like, rock bottom will teach you something a mountaintop never will. And rock bottom made me go, I need to change. And the first thing that I did, and this is no disrespect to anyone I used to be friends with, I changed who I was around, because I was around people that were going out all the time, that were drinking, that were taking drugs, that were laughing at my attempts to start businesses. And maybe not even maliciously, but the fact that they thought that people like us could never do this. And I was like, I don't want to be around that. And I listened to Tony Robbins saying, you need to change your circle. You need to start thinking positively. You need to start focusing more on what you want to, what it is you want. You need to have goals and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure we'll dive further into it, but that's really the premise of where it started. And when I started to get those mental health issues, I said, I need to make a change. And when I started to heal myself, I said, how can I help other people heal? Because if it worked for me, it can work for anyone. And now I'm just trying to perfect it in a shorter period of time. So when I first started working with people, it would be over 14 weeks. Now it's over 7 weeks. And hopefully it's going to get to the point where it can be done in a few days. That's the lifetime goal.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for not holding back and just sharing your story, because actually when it's, when it's raw and it's vulnerable, that's where it's actually, we can feel that and we can connect with that. Yeah, that's pretty powerful that you're able to actually have that reflection. And when you saw your dad, hit your mom or attack your mom, and then have that reflection of like, man, this is actually who I'm becoming, and this is the last person I want to become. Because a lot of people, they don't do that, right? They actually continue down that path. So they just don't have that reflection time or that self-control.
Exactly.
Once you had that, the reflection, and you started to change things a little bit, you stopped hanging around the same people. Obviously, we know the power of the people that you're around and what that does. From there, did you start to, and it sounds like you started to listen to positive things such as Tony Robbins, which I've actually been to a couple of those events. They're awesome.
Aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I've volunteered at a few of the events too. They're really good. Yeah, where I was like right around the stage as one of the security guys. So you're like
amazing,
listening to them from feet away, where people spent like thousands of dollars for those seats. It was really cool.
That's amazing. What did you go to? Was it a UPW?
Yeah, it was the Unleash the Power Within, the UPW.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And then I did one other one, Date with Destiny as well.
Oh, I would love to go to that. That sounds amazing. It's a week-long one, right?
Yeah, it's and I was volunteering the whole time, so it was like a week of volunteering and literally sleeping 2 or 3 hours a night. It was quite an experience. It was an amazing experience for sure. So when you started to, let's say you hit rock bottom, and it's so true that a lot of times you got hit rock bottom to then, climb back up in the direction you want to go. So you started to put yourself around different people. You started to listen to things that were empowering for you and not disempowering. Did you then also gravitate to something such as, a coach, or like meditation or mindfulness, or like, was there something else that was kind of a jump starter for you?
Well, in all honesty, when I started to move away from my old life,
Mhm.
I wanted to stop working, and I just my initial goal was rich, famous. That was it. Didn't care about anything else. Didn't want any. Didn't even think about happiness. Didn't think about spirituality. At the time, I wasn't spiritual at all. But now, as you can see, all my crystals and all my Buddhas and all that kind of stuff, it's like it's part of me.
Love
Like,
it.
I
Yeah.
really enjoy it. But initially, when I stopped working for my dad, I was then not working, and because I used to be a builder with him.
Mhm.
And so at the time I had no money, so I couldn't afford coaches. I just couldn't. I couldn't afford courses. I couldn't afford seminars.
Mhm.
I literally couldn't afford anything. And when I left school, I could barely read. So for example, I will always say it's about who you're around. For the first 2-3 years, even to this day, I'm not around loads of people. I'm really not. And anyone that's listening that feels like you're going at it alone, that's how I felt for a very long time. I didn't know anyone who started a successful business. I didn't know anyone who was truly happy. I didn't know anyone who had the goals of what I wanted. So I said, what's the next best thing I can do? And I started with, I first read the book, The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, the Law of Attraction book. And that was one of the biggest changes. Not that the book has everything in it that I believe today, because I believe there's so much more to it. But the book opened me up to say, I can actually learn to read. I can listen to audiobooks. And still to this day, this morning, I was listening to Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. And every single day, it's an amazing book, isn't it? Every single day, I listen to Joe Dispenza. He's now my go-to person because of the work that he does. He is just incredible. But it started with Tony Robbins, and it was, what books can I get of his? What audiobooks? What videos on YouTube? All this kind of stuff. And I just dove into it. And I said, okay, if I can't surround myself with the people that I want to be around, your likes of Jay Shetty, Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza, how can I at least listen to what they're saying? And then my mind just said, well, just read their books, listen to their stuff, because all of their years of experience and knowledge is compact into one little book. I've got the books up there. One little book has got years and years and years of experience and knowledge. So why don't I start listening to that? And from there, it allowed me to open my mind to think differently, to feel differently, and start to make tiny shifts in my life that over a period of time have a huge effect. Because it's so true. You can work out for 24 hours a day, or you can do one 30-minute session for 48 days, and you're going to get better results than doing one 24-hour session, because it's the small things that really matter. And yeah, so from there, I just started listening to books, picking up material, couldn't afford coaches. And then I went flat broke, and I literally had to sell my TV, I had to sell my shoes. I had like a collection of like Air Jordans. I had to sell them all. I couldn't live. I didn't have any money to live. And so I just had to sell everything. And this was a really low point for me. But one of the greatest things that ever happened was when I had 20 pounds, that's it, 20 pounds, maybe like $25, 20 pounds. And I went to the shop one day, and I remember hearing a story that Tony Robbins said about, you've probably heard it, where he said he went to an all-you-can-eat buffet and paid for someone's meal. I went into the shop and I bought my own food for that day, and I paid for the lady behind me. And the cashier was going, no, you can't do that. That's 20 pounds. You've only spent 3 pounds. So I was giving her 18 pounds. And that was my last 18 pounds. Wow. And I said, and when Tony Robbins said it, he was like, and I just didn't worry. And to this day, I still don't worry, even when financial troubles come, because I'm not the most successful business owner yet. And I'll be completely transparent with that. My business ebbs and flows. Last year I had an amazing year. This year, it's not been as great. And that's the way business runs. But I always have had this motto ever since that day, was as soon as I get to, even if I get to zero, I will never worry about money. And somehow, I don't know how, I really don't know how, I don't question it. Somehow it always comes back, and comes in abundance as well. So I do believe in giving back to others in certain ways. And it's all in different ways. You know what I mean? Sometimes I give in monetary value. Sometimes I give in time value, where I'll work with some people for free. And I'm focused on giving, because that really helps me receive as well. And it's a reciprocal thing. Like when you give, you do receive as well. I know I missed out majority of that question, but I did hit some of the answers there.
No, you shared a lot of really good information there. And I love what you said about with the giving and receiving, and the story of when you're down to 20 pounds, just because in relating that Tony Robbins story, really powerful, that he had, drop the rest of his money for a kid and his mom to have a meal, or the kid to take his mom out. Because then from there, I mean, we do live in a world that, you know, you give and you receive, and that's just the way it goes. I mean,
100%.
and so, you know, it's that is really powerful, and something for us to remember is, I mean, we're always going to be provided for, right? Like it's not like, and that's part of a mentality also. It's like, because if you go the opposite way, then you're really living in more of like a fear-based mind than a faith-based mind, right? So
well, it's our karma, isn't it, at the end of the day? Like, do you know what I mean? If someone punches me in the face, I can punch them back. But their bad karma is their bad karma, my bad karma is mine. Do you know what I mean? If I want to punch them back, and don't get me wrong, I've been a nightmare before where I've punched people first. I'm not that person anymore, and I will 100% guarantee that I'm not. But I've even been in times where people have been so aggressive towards me that it makes me angry, and it takes a lot, and I kid you not, a lot to make me angry. I'm just not an angry person. I'm the most like placid person as it comes, and like everything could be going wrong, and I will find a positive in it, and I will find a way to get through it. I'm just a natural problem solver, or I like to think. But someone got angry to me I think it was last year, 2 years ago, and that stood out for me because I retaliated in a very old self way. And to anyone listening, again, it's just because we make these shifts doesn't mean we have to stop the work. Because when we stop the work, we can still go back. Right. And even the same that I say now, I can drink alcohol. I don't really drink that much as it is. But if I am to drink, I can limit myself. I can stop myself. And I can prevent myself from going back to my old ways. But it does take a level of self-discipline, self-control, which comes over, I do believe, over a period of time. And there's ways to make instant changes in our life. And I truly believe that. I've done it and I've seen it happen many times. But my biggest thing is to help people realize, although we live in a society today where I can ask my phone, Siri, how far away the moon is from the earth, it will give me the answer in an instant. We expect everything to just come today. We order from Amazon, we get it next day. There's a shopping thing on Amazon right now that is one of the superstores in the UK called I think it's Morrison's. I can't remember the name of it. But they deliver same day. Like 10 years ago, it's crazy, isn't it? Like 10 years ago, 2 weeks was your average delivery time. And no one would bat an eyelid. I ordered like an outside gym set to do like pull-ups and dips and press-ups, all that kind of stuff. It took 2 weeks to come. After day 4, I forgot I even ordered it. 4 days. Yeah, because we live in that society now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Is you know, the changes or anything you want in your life, let's call it changes for the better, whether that's, you know, financially or mentally or physically or spiritually. Yes, we have to be willing to do the things on a daily basis and be patient with some things, because yes, the world that we live in, we are so much about instant gratification. But, you know, we've got to be able to do things consistently and know that, you know, if it's of real value, a lot of times it takes, you know, it takes time, a lot of time. Does. And you can fall back into ways too, you know. You're telling me about something that happened a year or two ago. Somebody was, you know, aggressive or angry towards you, and perhaps you didn't like the way that you reacted instead of responded. And I'm thinking, exactly, Max, I have a wife and 2 children. I know what you're talking about. It's like, you know, some things happen and you have to be calm, and you have to respond in the way that you want to respond, you know. But I'm not perfect either. So you got to put in the work. And
it's okay. It's okay to not be perfect. Like, embrace that. Like basically what happened, a guy was just absolutely going off at me, for literally no reason. The guy was just going, and I was just, then I was with my ex-girlfriend, so my girlfriend at the time, and I sort of got a little bit defensive, and I was like, go on then, what are you going to do? Are you going to hit me? Go on then. And I was literally just sort of the adrenaline started running. So, and then, but after that served me so well, because then I said, what was it that triggered me to be so angry? And after sitting with it, and you were saying what are the things that I've done, and I've had a heavy meditation practice over the last 5 years daily, that I do not miss a day. Maybe I miss one session because I meditate twice a day. Maybe I miss one session a day, but I'd say out of the last 4 to 5 years, I've missed maybe 10 days of meditation in the whole time. Whether I've been on holiday, I will at least meditate for 5 to 10 minutes a day at least. Some days I've done points where I've meditated for 2-3 hours a day, morning and evening, like combined. And that's really helped me. And I'll sit there in meditation, hypnosis. I use self-hypnosis, to be honest, whenever I do meditation. And I sat there and said, well, what was it that actually caused me so much anger? And what it was, that the fact when people try and make me look stupid in front of people, that was a big trigger point for me. Because when I was a kid, people would say that I was stupid, which would trigger me and make me angry. So having that negative experience happen actually served me so well, because when it came up, I said, well, why does that make me so angry? Because it makes me feel like I'm stupid. Max, are you stupid? The question is no. Am I silly? Yes. Am I loud sometimes? Yes. Can I be very quiet sometimes? Yes. Am I actually stupid? The answer is no. Do you know what I mean? I actively work on myself every single day. I try to learn more every single day. Maybe I'm not the fastest learner, and I'm okay with that. I've read books and listened to audiobooks 10 times because I can't hold on to the information as well as other people. I accept that about myself, and I say, how do I combat that? Do it more. Repetition. If you want to learn the alphabet, you don't just do it once. You do it 100 times until you've got the alphabet. And even still to this day, I could not tell you the letter that comes after R unless I would go from A, B, C, unless I go all the way from the start. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't make me stupid. And when I realized that, it made me sit with myself and, I suppose, self-coach. And at the end of the day, you can see as many therapists, coaches, mentors, friends that you want to see. But until you become your own self-coach, which I feel like is one of the most important things that coaches should be doing for other people, being there to coach them and guide them through it 100%, but also helping them be able to do it on their own so that they don't need someone else. That's sort of my goal of everything. Yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, one person should not be relying on another person their whole life, right? Like, of course,
100%.
there might be some time that you have to work with someone, but the ultimate goal is for you to be able to coach yourself.
100%.
So you had mentioned meditation. What kind of things, as far as, that you put in the work, and your routines, your habits are just as important as anything. What kind of a routine or habit do you have on a daily basis that really helps you get to be at your best place for the day?
So for me, visualization is the biggest thing in my life. And not just visualization of like, I can imagine myself living a great life. And what is it you're doing? I don't know. I'm just happy, or something like that. Visualization for me is a process of when people say to me, I can't meditate, all I do is think thoughts. I'm like, well, good, because I don't actively do meditation to the point of a completely clear mind for hours on end. Sometimes I can, but it's not my personal preference. My personal preference is imagine, create, and rehearse my future self so many times that my brain believes it to be real. And that's really what I'm hell-bent on doing. Is I know inevitably I'm going to be extremely wealthy one day. Not because I'm guessing, not because I've written a goal down, that's part of it, but mainly because I've manifested in my mind it's going to happen. And some people can look at it and be like, yeah, that stuff doesn't work. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But what actually happens is neurologically, and this is even science now, they're not my studies, but a lot of the studies that I've read, when you imagine something so vividly in your mind and you're so present in the state of meditation, your brain believes it to be real. So if my brain believes, and a great example is me with public speaking, I used to be the most petrified person of public speaking. One of my old business partners said to me once, he was like, I'm actually nervous for you after I did it. He was like, it was only like 7 people in a room. He said, I was nervous for you because you were that nervous. And I was like, was it that obvious? He was like, yes, everyone could tell. So I was petrified. And even though I was scared, I was still petrified but I still tried to do it because I was like, I need to learn. I want to be like Tony Robbins one day. I want to be speaking on stages. And I was literally shaking, bright red, like sweating. It was awful. But then I started to get to the point where saying, okay, if I can do this mentally enough times, then I'm not going to be scared. And only recently, when was it? I think it was like last month. Yeah, last month, I had a collaboration with Adidas and I had to speak at an event. And there was one of the events was, I think there was like 30 people. One of the events, there was like 50, 60 people. So it's not a lot of people, but when you scale it up, it really isn't going to be any more like the relation to more than 50 people isn't going to feel any different to being 50 people regardless.
Right.
So when I did it, I was saying at the speech, and it's on YouTube if anyone wants to check it out. If you type in Max Hindle on YouTube, reprogram your subconscious mind, there's like 4 parts of it. And I'm sitting there and I say in it, I really actually feel so at ease and comfortable, and I enjoy this. I really enjoy this. Whereas before I would have been shaking, I would have been petrified. But because I've done it so many times mentally, my brain actually believes that I've already done it and it's no longer scared. So that is why routine morning when I wake up, don't check my phone. I don't go on social media. Social media, I do not touch until at least 9, 10 a.m. At least. Unless there's something very, very, very important that I need to do. I really do not want to consume social media. The only media platform I will use is YouTube to consume education or motivation, usually education now. I just love listening to Joe Dispenza in the morning or an audiobook. And as soon as I wake up, I will meditate for anywhere between 10, 15 minutes to an hour, depending on how much time I've got, because not everyone has an hour in the morning. I don't always have an hour in the morning. And that is really based on the first part is about getting still, waking myself, like getting relaxed, getting calm, then just about creating who is it that I want to become. Sometimes I'll just do it and I do just want to be still. But my morning routine used to be a lot more aggressive with things that I would do. Other little things like making my bed, making sure my room's clean and that kind of stuff that just makes my mind at ease, because when I've got a messy room, my mind's messy. Always. It's just the way I am. But the biggest thing for me is wake up, get my meditation done. Then I like to go for a walk on the beach because I live near the beach. I'm very lucky. I take my dog for a walk on the beach. And for me, I'm a nature water lover. So if I can, either that or I go on my paddleboard. And the morning really is my time. And I don't usually start work until 10 a.m., sometimes 11. But sometimes I'm happy to work a lot later and I'll work till 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, really depending on what I've got on that day.
Right on. That's awesome. So what I'm hearing is when you're going to start your morning, you're going to be at your best. You have to work on yourself. I mean, this
100%.
is a daily thing that you have to do. And so, yours is putting yourself in the right frame of mind, meditation. The visualization is huge. I'm really glad that you mentioned that, just because, what we repeatedly think, what we imagine, what we can feel in that visualization, it's really like we're taking these thoughts, these feelings, these visions, and we're taking it from our conscious mind to our subconscious mind. And so it's almost like, we're programming ourselves to then have an exact experience in the outer world. So you really are like creating that. And as you said, I mean, that isn't just like, woo-woo stuff. This is science. Like science actually shows that this is very, very real.
Yeah.
And so I love that you do that. And you had mentioned Dr. Joe Dispenza, and some of what you're saying is like, oh yes, this is definitely something that he also preaches and practices. And just some of the examples of people that have done this consistently and things that have happened in their life are really remarkable. It's
100%.
almost like it's remarkable. It's almost like too incredible that you almost couldn't believe, but it is very, very real.
It is.
So let's say that somebody is starting out and is just like very new to, like, maybe they've meditated a time or two in their life, maybe they haven't, they don't really know much about a visualization, and this is all new. This is like, whoa, this is like a lot of information. Like, is it real? What would you recommend to somebody that was like, okay, I definitely need to be more in control of myself. I need to, I want to direct how my day is going to go, how my future is going to
Mm,
go. Um, you know, I guess what would be, here's the starting point. Like, here's the first
yeah.
step or two you should take if you're new at this. What would you say to someone like that?
Yeah, well, first of all, to realize that what you spoke about, the subconscious mind, is the most important thing that we need to begin to master. Reason being is 95% of our life is run by our subconscious.
Hmm.
So we can say, anyone listening, I can say as much as I want. I want to meditate. I want to meditate. I want to meditate. It means nothing. Whereas me, meditation is my subconscious program.
Hmm.
I just meditate. I don't think about, am I going to meditate? I just do it.
Hmm.
Some days easier than others, I will completely admit. Some days I can go longer than others,
Hmm.
but it's just who I am. And Joe Dispenza talks about this. When we change our personality, we change our personal reality.
Hmm.
And anyone that's starting, I actually created a 30-day meditation and hypnosis challenge on my YouTube. The first 7 days are on my YouTube, and then it's all free. It's on my website. You just have to log into my website and you can get all access to it. And it
Awesome.
starts off very easy. And starting off by just showing up, day one is 3 minutes long. It's not hard. It's not difficult. We've all got 3 minutes. I want to break down those barriers of excuses for people, because at the end of the day, our excuses are valid. I don't have enough time. I've got kids. Okay, cool. I understand that. But so does Ryan. He finds his time to meditate. So does Tony Robbins. He finds his time to meditate. I'm sure Tony Robbins is a much more busier person than anyone that I know, way busier than me. And he still finds time to meditate. So if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. If Joe Dispenza can do it, it's good enough for me. And that's the way that I look at it. So that's why I created the challenge. Day one is 3 minutes. Day two is 4 minutes. And every day it just goes up by 1 minute. And by day 30, I believe it's like 32 minutes, 33 minutes or something like that. So by the end of the program, you're able to actually sit and do a full meditation session. Whereas day one isn't necessarily about the meditation. It's more about showing up and getting the results of it. But when we understand that it becomes habitually, or it comes habitually, the reason I live my life as someone who meditates, someone who is a coach, is not just because I did it for 1 day, is because I've done it progressively for a longer period of time. And we can teach our body, which is our subconscious mind, to do something through repetition. If I walk, actually, I'll give an example. I broke my back when I was 16. When I healed, I had to have a back brace. I'm very lucky to walk in, but I had to have a back brace. And when I healed like that, like wonky. And I can't remember which side of it, but one side of my spine had no muscle down it. So I had to retrain it. So what happened was my body sort of healed habitually to this way. So my spine had no muscle. Let's say the right side of it had no muscle. So it couldn't actually hold my shoulder right. Whereas if this shoulder was high, I can't remember exactly how it was, but I remember being wonky. I had to do loads of physio to help my back. Right. And the reason is habitually my body memorized being like that. And imagine it like memory foam. Yeah. If we do something enough times, we'll just always go back to the memory foam. No matter if I screw up from time to time and I have a few months out of eating badly, getting out of habit, I will always now, because I've done it for so long, go back to the memory foam of having the powerful habits, of being more positive, of meditation, of working out, of healthy eating, of exercise, all that kind of stuff, because it is now my baseline. But if it's not your baseline currently, then we need to start small. And a good analogy I will always give is, do you work out much, Ryan?
Most mornings, it's part of my routine. I do.
Okay, perfect. Yep. So would you say between 5 and 7 days a week you work out?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Is it feasible when you first started to work out to do 7 days a week, 2 hours a day, twice a day, and only drink protein shakes and only eat salads? Is that even possible for you to do now?
That sounds like a New Year's resolution that lasts a day.
Exactly. And maybe it will last a week and people will go, yeah, I'm hyped. I'm going to do 7 days a week. I'm going to do 2 hours a day, twice a day, 4 hours of exercise. They get to day 7 and they're like, I'll start again on Thursday. And Thursday comes around and they never start again.
Right.
Because they haven't, and some people can go all in. I've done it with some things, but not everything. And this way you have to be aware. We have to be aware of these things. Am I going to go all in, or am I going to go progressively?
Mhm.
And this is what I would say with meditation. If you want to start a meditation practice, or you want to start any great habitual practice in general,
Mhm.
is start simply. Start with the 3-minute meditations. Don't start with 20 minutes, because 20 minutes is a long time. If someone
Mhm.
told me to go and run on a treadmill for 20 minutes right now, I probably couldn't. I don't run that much. And
Mhm.
maybe I'd be able to, maybe. I'd be absolutely killed by the end of it,
Mhm.
but maybe I would. Um, if someone said for me to run on a treadmill for 2 hours, there's no chance. I don't think I could do that. It's not
Mhm.
feasible. But if I
Right.
started with 10 minutes, then I went to 20 minutes, then I went to 30 minutes, then I went to 40 minutes.
Mhm.
Eventually, I can get to 2 hours.
Right.
And when I did this collaboration with Adidas, it was with like the Runners Club.
Mhm.
And one of them was running a marathon. And I was like, there's no way I could run a marathon. And that's not me being pessimistic. That's me being like realistic.
Mhm.
I don't have the tools to run a marathon.
Mhm.
I've not been training. I've not been running. I haven't run properly for a long time.
Mhm.
I like to do like calisthenics, like all the pull-ups, push-ups, all that kind of stuff, dips, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So my cardiovascular health isn't the greatest. So it doesn't make sense for me to go and start running a marathon. But can I train to run a marathon? The answer is yes. I just
Yeah.
personally don't want to.
Mhm.
And when we teach our body habitually, our subconscious mind takes it in as a program. But that's why I love hypnosis, because we can reprogram our subconscious mind in the flick of a switch.
Mhm.
Now, sometimes it takes a little bit more than just that flick of the switch, because depending on, let's say we've gone through something for 35 years and we've been eating the same cereal for 35 years.
Mhm.
Eating a different cereal on that next day will feel very, very, very weird. If you don't,
Mhm.
if you're like, hold on a second, why am I having toast instead of cereal? It doesn't feel right. Then you'll go
Mhm.
back to the cereal, because it's just something you've always done.
Mhm.
And use that in terms of, if I want to stop being depressed tomorrow, I can't just go, that's it, I'm happy.
Mhm.
It's like, no, we have to actually figure out why it was there. Then we
Mhm.
have to overcome the old emotion to create a new emotion.
Mhm.
And when we have an emotional experience that is so vivid, so clear, we will never forget that experience.
Mhm.
Hence why I remember the angry thing, because my emotions were high. Hence why I remember when I met my girlfriend for the first time, my emotions were high. Two
Mhm.
totally different emotions, one being like that infatuated in love, and the other one being anger. It doesn't matter what emotion, but the emotion is very, very, very high.
Mhm.
And we attach meaning to the emotion, which then gives us the understanding of how it made us feel. And then it starts to become a program if we allow it to.
Mhm.
And then it's just about habitually doing something to either hold on to that emotion and say, yeah, that's it. They made me angry, so I'm just going to stay angry. Then I start punching holes in walls. Then I start screaming at people. Then I start taking my anger out on people. And then I wonder why in 10 years' time, everyone hates me.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think whether it's meditation or something else, we definitely have to start small, and you
Mm.
have to build up. I mean, and then from there, you could look back on 30, 60, 90, or however many days and be like, wow, I've actually made really good
Mhm.
progress, and this has now become more of a habit,
Yes.
a good routine of mine. Um, you are a hypnotist, and that's part of your coaching. Some of the things that as a hypnotist, and that you do for yourself, I want to give someone, and starting small, like you just mentioned, that's a really good strategy. Is there anything else that you would recommend for people, things that in the hypnotism, perhaps even it's something small that someone could say to themselves? Or is there anything that, and of course, for those listening, like, go to Max Hindle. Is it maxhindle.com?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can go to Max's website and start that 30-day. It's a free meditation, and there's going to be other resources. And of course, you could reach out to Max as well if you really wanted to utilize the hypnotism.
By
But
all means.
another strategy, perhaps, or something that you think is really smart advice for someone that wants to, let's say, better themselves or have more control of their mind.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's very simple, and it really is just finding meaning in everything. And this is where self-talk becomes very important. For example, when I broke up with my ex-girlfriend, it was very emotional and very painful, but I knew it was the right thing to do because the relationship, I couldn't see it going very long. Whereas my girlfriend now, I can see this ongoing, and I can. And I had to be real with myself. I had to be real with myself and say, this is just doing both of us pain. And I had to sit there and really analyze, okay, so what can I take from this when I was in a lot of pain? And I said, I now know how it feels. So when I'm working with people, I can understand from a place of heartbreak now. I can really understand that. And just finding a sort of meaning with it. When I went through all the stuff that I went through with my dad, I said, well, what can I learn from this? Now I know how I don't want to be as a person. And just finding lessons and wisdom in something that we go through. If you can find it before the next great thing happens, then you've won. You've really won, because at the end of the day, the reason people will blame their past for what's gone on, of how bad it was. My past was awful. And what I'm going to say is all of these things that I'm going to say in a second have valid excuses and reasons why we shouldn't let go of it. My dad was abusive. I have been abused. I've been sexually abused. And again, all this stuff it has valid reasons. And I'm not taking that away from anyone. I was bullied at school. I like all these different things. They're so valid, what you can say, but the reason we blame our past is because our present isn't the blueprint that we wish it was of our life. Like if I right now had the house of my dreams, I'd say I'm with the girl of my dreams. But I had the business of my dreams. Everything was going perfectly. Of course, I would say my past was great. All of that stuff has good reason. But if we can see that before our present is great, then you've already won. You've already beaten 99% of people there. Because, and it's not about beating people there, but you already have, because we don't tend to see it until the good comes. But in order for that good to come, we must overcome the old emotions that we used to have. And a great example is me right now. From abundance, I'd never came from a wealthy family at all. We never had much money. I've been flat broke. I've had months where I've made a decent amount of money. Last year was much better than it is this year. But I do know that in order for me to become the abundant version of myself, I need to work on that. And I've been working on that for 5 years. It doesn't just happen overnight. For some people, it's quicker than others. But also realize that if you want something enough, you'll do whatever it takes. This could take me another 5 years. It's going to take me 10 years total to get the abundance that I truly want, deserve, and desire. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And that really is the attitude to go in with, whatever it takes. Because at the end of the day, how do you stop anxiety and depression? Long and short is change our way of thinking. Now, it's not as easy as that. And I'll be completely honest, it's not as easy as just going, oh, think positively, because that's not true. Thinking positively is a bit of BS, really. We've got to realize where did this come from? Why did it happen? What is it doing to us? What triggers us? Who do we want to be? Then we can start going from there. We've got to understand, then create. And my whole sort of ethos of my program is release, activate, integrate. Release who we were, activate who we want to be, integrate that into our daily life. And then we can get to the point where we're removing our old self and creating a new self.
I love that. Wow, that's awesome. That is that was a lot of wisdom in a short amount of time, because I'm hearing different things. But for those, and we both know people in our lives that really they keep blaming things in the past. It's like they can't move forward. It's like they're holding on to these old emotions. You have to, to create something new, you have to, you can't be living in that old state of mind emotionally, right? I mean, you're never going to get out of that. And so those kind of things need to be released, and you have to really create the person that you want to be moving forward. And you have to take the action. It's not just about being positive. and you have to create that person emotionally, right? It's like you just can't think about it. You actually emotionally have to do it. That's very powerful information. And you know, reflection, things that have happened in our past can really add a lot of value to where we want to go in the future. But you have to, it's all in the way you look at things, right? And
100%.
then you know, and so use our past, but don't let it control where we're going. I mean, that's really
100%.
really smart advice.
I've got a great analogy for that, Ryan. Sorry for interrupting you, but
no,
I've got
please.
a great analogy there. Is when we drive a car, do you drive a car?
Yep.
Yeah. The windscreen is bigger than the wing mirrors and the rear view mirror, because we have to see what's behind us, what's happened, what we've been past, what's coming up from our past. Maybe there's something that's coming up from our past and it's a car that we have to move out the way of. And maybe that's a red flag. That's how, like, you know, people talk about red flags in relationships. If we had never been with that person that gave us red flags, we would never see the red flags.
Right.
But the most important thing is that windscreen. If we don't have that windscreen clear, then we're just going to crash. So that's the most important thing. But we always need to double check. We always need to double check our mirrors. And that's what's happened in our past. That's what we can learn from. But the most important thing from today is where we're going. Because at the end of the day, it's all well and good to go through therapy for years and talk about your problems. But talking about your problems doesn't solve your problems. I just talked about them. We have to emotionally remove ourselves from our past and create a whole new self. And does that mean that you're going to change and people around you are going to be like, you're different, you're changing? Are they going to like it? Not necessarily. Some people might, some people won't. But the fact is, if you want to change your life, you must change yourself. And that's a difficult pill to swallow sometimes, because some people go, but I like this about me. And it's like, okay, yeah, but do you have the results that you want in life? If the answer is not an immediate yes, then you have to change it. And that's an ongoing thing. Because for me, I'm very happy now. I really do enjoy my life. I don't answer to anyone other than myself. Do I earn the most amount of money? Not yet. It's happening. It's coming here and there. I've had great opportunities. I'm connecting with great people, and I'm helping a lot of people, but I'm always continually progressing. And am I going to change? Yes. Whereas before I was very optimistic, not as much hardworking. Whereas now I'm still optimistic, probably not as optimistic as I was. I was thinking about this today, but I'm much more hardworking. So maybe being hardworking slightly drops your optimism, because it makes you realize, yeah, this doesn't happen as quickly as I thought it was going to happen. Whereas when I first dropped out of, so I failed my first year of college. My second year, I dropped out a few months towards the end of a plumbing qualification. I probably should have stayed, but I didn't do it. My optimism was, I'm going to stop this and I'm going to start trading Forex and become a millionaire in 3 months. I genuinely thought that was going to happen. And it was a big hit when it didn't. But it served me well, because I lost money. It served me to realize the value of money. It served me to realize that great things don't just happen like that. And anyone that is a great success today didn't just become a great success in a month, in a week, in a year. It takes time, and it does. And even though I'm, from a spiritual point of view, I believe time is completely an illusion and it's irrelevant. Where we are today on planet Earth, time is relevant, and we can use it. And we can also use it as a buffer. For example, people talk about manifestation. If I manifested everything I thought about, my life would probably be a disaster, because there's some thoughts that come to mind that aren't my thoughts. And they're programs from other people that have made me think in a negative way that could be very negative in my life and have a toxic impact.
Right. Yeah, I heard a lot of a couple more nuggets in there. You're talking about, you know, taking action and perseverance. I mean, you really don't fail unless you absolutely stop. I mean, there's temporary defeat in things, right? But in those what seem like failures, but they're really just setbacks. I mean, there's lessons in all of those, right? So we have to keep moving forward. And I think it might have been Jim Rohn that said it, you know, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better.
Yes.
Right. It's like, there's things that as we continue to go forward and you have a temporary defeat on, well, you learn from that, and you keep moving forward and you get better. right? And so
100%.
in those ways, you're changing, you're changing yourself in some ways, and you're changing, the direction of where you're going. You're actually
Definitely.
like, you're pulling it forward and where you want to go. So, and yes, sometimes it takes longer than we think, but it's all about, hey, if you have a purpose in mind, you got to keep going with it, even if it takes longer than you think it does. Um,
Yeah.
as we're wrapping up here, tons of really good information, Max. I'm wondering for you, if you could, uh, well, first of all, for yourself, do you have like a mantra or like a favorite saying or anything like that? Favorite quote that is something that you think about every day? Um,
Something I think about every day. I mean, the things I think about every day really is like my thoughts really do create my reality.
mhm,
And being crystal clear on that, because realistically, if it's easy for people to go, yeah, I know that, I know that, I know that.
mhm,
But Ryan, if I said to you right now, are you aware of every single thought that comes across your mind?
mm,
Probably not everyone's going to say yes. And that's okay. Do you know what I mean?
right.
Because there are thoughts that I do get myself into a negative spiral sometimes.
Mhm,
And I've created a few little things, one called the spiral up method, where it is about when you feel yourself spiraling down to negativity,
mhm.
we have a choice to change it and spiral up.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
I
awesome.
created a whole video on that, explaining the whole process of that on my YouTube. If you
I
just
think
type
I
in Max
watched that.
Hindle.
That was amazing, by the way.
Oh, amazing.
That
Yeah,
was
if
amazing.
anyone's listening, just types in Max Hindle spiral up method, you'll be able to find it.
Mhm,
And it really is that my thoughts create my reality. And it sounds a bit cliche, but it really is. I'm aware of any thought that comes through my mind. If I
mhm,
think a thought that is, can I do that? I ask myself, why do I think I can't do that?
mhm,
Why do I have that? Is it a limiting belief?
mhm.
Because at the end of the day, I know I'm gonna be a very known person, because it's just it's inevitable in my mind.
Mhm.
It's inevitable. And
Yeah.
if you can get to that level of confidence with what it is you want, you're just,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be happy. It's inevitable. I'm gonna be happy, or
Mhm.
I am happy. It's inevitable that happiness is mine already.
Mhm.
And we start to live from that place of I am.
Mhm.
If we know it is inevitable, it's not, it might happen, it will happen, it's inevitably going to happen.
Yeah.
That's my thought process. And then I know as soon as I get to that point, boom, it's done. For me, it's done. And
Mhm.
now it's just about waiting, just
Yeah.
doing, waiting, and not stopping, still doing, but eventually it's going to happen.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what you continually say to yourself. Your thoughts, create your reality, and we already touched on it, but it goes from that conscious to your subconscious mind, and then that's what you're going for until you actually physically see it.
Mm.
Um, if you could go back in time, Max, and give yourself, your younger self, let's say your teenage self, 16, 17 years old, like one nugget of wisdom that would have just been the best advice to hear. And, for those listeners as well, whether they're young or whether they're old, like
Mm.
what was that nugget of wisdom that would have been like so good to hear when you were younger?
Take every single thing that comes, like opportunity, and do it from a place of experience, because it's very easy. Because, for example, I personally don't always think like, if I would say this to myself,
Hmm.
I don't think it would come across very well,
Hmm.
because so many people have said to me to do something in business, in
Hmm.
social media, in whatever it is that I'm doing. And I say, yeah. I'll do it. I'll do it. And I never do it
Hmm.
until I experience it.
Hmm.
Then I take on the learning, the lesson, and the wisdom. So
Mm.
for me, it would be just do everything you can possibly do. If people laugh, they laugh. If people hate you, they hate you. If people love you, they love you. But the only way you'll truly understand something is if you do it. And if you want some more backup on that, and maybe you're a very shy person right now, which I was, I will say start doing it with meditation.
Mhm.
Because if you can mentally have these negative things happen, but you know how to combat those negative things. Let's say you're at school and someone's bullying you, how you can visualize yourself, how you're going to deal with it. And you're not necessarily going to stand up and punch them back, but you're going to deal with the situation at hand.
Mm.
Or something positive, you want to go into work and you want to ask for a raise, but you're too scared to do it. Do it in here first.
Yeah.
But then the main thing, so it all starts off with, if you can't do it physically, start mentally. If you can do that, then you can do anything, because eventually, and there was a quick study that I actually read up on, and I'm not going to give you the exact science because I can't remember the exact science, but it's like, if you imagine yourself doing something, you create, let's say it's 5 connections in your brain. It's not 5 connections, but let's just use that as an example. If you watch someone do it, you create 7 connections in your brain. If you actually do it, you create 15 connections in your brain.
Right.
So actively doing it is more powerful, but mentally doing it still has power.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
if you're too scared to go and actively do it, mentally do it until you're not scared to actively do it.
I love that. Yeah. And that actually reminds me of a study that was done where they took, 3 sets of people. One shot free throws, right? They actually shot free throws for 30 days. Another group just visualized in their mind shooting free throws, like actually feeling the ball, dribbling, shooting in their mind, but didn't touch a basketball. And then the third group did nothing, right? So after 30 days, the group that did nothing, they improved 0%. The group that actually shot the basketball for 30 days in a row, they improved 24% from the free throw line. The group that only did it in their mind and visualized, they actually improved 23%. They almost improved as much as the ones that did it. So then, taking your advice, first do it in your mind. And then when you go out and actually do it in the physical world, like with this example with the basketball, you've done it in your mind. Now do it physically. Like, you're going to improve more than, even that 24%. So that's great advice. Absolutely. You gotta go out and you gotta experience. So
yeah, because it's all well and good to just do it in the mind, but we still have to physically go and do it.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
You can't do it physically right now. Start in the mind until you can do it.
Yeah, totally. Max, this has been awesome. Just been such a pleasure to have you join me. Where can people find you?
If you type in Max Hindle on Google, all my stuff will come up, my website. Usually I think my Instagram and YouTube comes up. If you type in on YouTube, Max Hindle, Hindle, and Instagram, it's Max IM1111ON. It spells Maximilian, but it was already taken as a username. And yeah, drop me a message. I mean, I'm running group sessions now as well, limited to 10 people. And this is just about creating community, creating exactly what it is we want in life, and really becoming the masters. So where we talk about the visualization processes, having a weekly session where we actively go and do it so that we can create who it is we want to become. You can also work with me one-to-one if you want to. And there's also free stuff. I mean, I'm hitting every aspect. If you can't afford to work with me one-to-one, do the group stuff. If you can't afford the group stuff, do the free stuff. I want to cut out all excuses, because excuses never serve us. And I get that it's difficult right now. I get that it's hard. I get that you're scared. I get that you're afraid. I get that you're anxious. I get that you're worried. But if you don't want to talk to me, just start with the free stuff, and then eventually we can progressively move on. Right on.
Yeah. And I would strongly recommend people obviously go to YouTube and check out Max and Hindle. Again, it's Hindle. But I originally had found Max on Instagram, and his posts are like mind blowing to me. Like, they're so good. They're as like good as anything I see from people that have like millions of followers. I'm like, Max is the man. I love what you post. And so one more time, what's your handle on Instagram?
It's at Max IM1111, so 4 1s ON. So it spells Maximilian basically. The ILLI is effectively 1111. So that's what it spells.
Oh, 1111.
But you can also type in Max Hindle and it will come up on Instagram as well. Right
on. Well, again, thank you so much, Max. This was awesome. I absolutely loved it. Man, it was such a pleasure to have you on. So
likewise. Thank you very much, brother.
Absolutely.